You weren't born to play background in someone else's dream. See, at some point, you as a musician started playing small. You settled for just being a part of someone else's band or someone else's team, and you forgot your own vision and dreams along the way. But you weren't given these musical gifts just to get by. You were given these gifts to build something that lasts. So the question is, what are you as a musician building? So in the time that you watch this entire video, you're going to learn how to stop playing small and build a musical legacy that lasts, starting today. So back in 2007, I got a call for a gig. And it was a typical club gig. Someone wanted me to sit in for this other musician that couldn't be there. I was on keys. And I was told that the gig was going to be like from 9 to 1. So typical 4-hour gig, 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. And I never will forget, I pulled up at the club at about 8:15, 8:20, and it was closed. All of the lights were out in there. The doors were locked. And I'm sitting there like, wow, this is crazy. If this gig is starting at 9 o'clock, why is this club closed? So I sit there for a minute thinking, hey, maybe I'm just a little bit too early. So I sit there for about 10 or 15 minutes. Nobody still shows up to the club. So I get on the phone at that point, start calling the person that asked me to be on the gig. It's like, hey, man, what's up? Like, this club is closed. And he was like, oh, man, that's okay. I'm on the way. I'll be there shortly. And the guy who's supposed to open up the club owner just called me. He said he's on the way. Cool. So I'm sitting there. 8:30 rolls around. 8:45 rolls around. 8:50 rolls around. Nobody's still at this club. Now, keep in mind, we're supposed to start at 9 o'clock. So around 9:15, the club owner shows up, opens the club, come in, turn the lights on and all of that kind of stuff. I load my stuff in. The guy that called me for the gig, he was the drummer. He ended up not even getting to the club himself until around 10:15. So at this point, I'm livid. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I'm a very time conscious person like that. So like when you tell me something is supposed to start at 9 and we end at 1, I'm like, that's what time we're playing for. So what's up? So he gets there. He's like walking in slow. He's setting up his stuff slow. Like he's talking to people. Like, I'm like, dude, like we're supposed to be on the clock. What's going on? So as these typical club gig things would happen, when you start late, the people who hired you want you to play later. So as a result of that, we end up having to go to like 2:30 in the morning. And I was livid because, again, time was money for me and we were on the clock and my pay didn't change. Matter of fact, this was one of these low paying, I think it was like a $75 gig or something like that. So I was already mad. Now, I tell you this story because this was sort of the beginning of a turning point about legacy to me, about what I'm going to be explaining to you in this video. See, I had been doing this kind of stuff a lot, and it had been happening a lot, not to this extreme, but it had been happening in different ways. And I started to feel stuck. I started to feel like I was spinning my wheels. I was doing all of this work. I was trying to be professional. I was trying to be on time, have the right equipment, know the music, know the songs, all of this kind of stuff. And I was just feeling stuck because it felt like everyone around me was on some sort of different path than I was, or thinking differently about this kind of stuff. So have you ever felt that way? Like you've been dealing with people and they're just on a different wavelength than you are. Like their whole method of the way they do things is different. And what that made me realize again was that I was living and being a part of someone else's dream. They were adding me as a supporting character in a movie that they were writing. I was like those non-playable characters on the Grand Theft Auto game, the ones that's just like standing in the street that get shot or hit by cars or whatever, just like irrelevant people. I was that kind of person in their dreams. And the crazy part about this is what I realized, and I think this is true for all of us, is that we're not necessarily lazy as musicians. I definitely wasn't lazy at the time. I was putting in the work. I was spending time and years putting in the work to try to be professional and do all of these things, but I was getting nowhere. And that's when I realized that I really needed to start creating my own dream for myself and my own musical legacy for myself. And that's what's really important, what we need to do as musicians. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you the simple framework that I followed to get out of someone else's dream, create my own movie, and be the cast of my own movie, be the star of my own movie. First, let me know in the comments if this resonates with you. Let me know if this is something that you felt before, like you've been out here feeling a part of someone else's dream and what they're doing rather than building your own. So, ironically, this framework is built around an acronym for the word legacy. So we're going to take each letter of that. So the L is for lead with vision. So there's a popular proverb that says, where there's no vision, people perish. And I think that that's very profound, because what happens is when you don't have a vision, a dream, or a goal for your own life and your own music career, what happens is you start to become a part of someone else's, just like I explained. It's either one of those two things are going to happen. Either you're going to be a part of your own dream, your own legacy, or you're going to be a part of someone else's. And when you're a part of someone else's, you're never going to be the star. You're always going to be a supporting character to what they want you to be. You're going to be relegated to the amount of money they say you can make. Your career heights is only going to go as far as they want it to go, because it's about them. It's their dream. That's just how it's supposed to go. Your vision for your life is the sheet music, if you will. It's the sheet music to learn how to play this game of life as a musician. That's what we have to understand. We have to lead with this vision. We have to start with the dream. So the question is, you ask, sorry, I dropped my microphone here. What is it that you want from your life? What do you want out of your musical career? If you look 10, 15 years into the future, what do you want that to look like? What is that vision for you? Getting clear on that is one of the most profound things that you can do to start building your own legacy. There's one of my favorite books is called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by author Stephen Covey. And one of the habits in that book that he mentions is beginning with the end in mind. And what that means is you set the objective. You have a clear picture of where you want to go, what the end result is going to be. This is what highly effective people do. You have that end result in mind, and then that helps determine what moves you're going to make going forward. Everything that you're going to do, because it's going to be objective in going toward this goal. So again, the L is lead with vision. Now, the E stands for elevate your value. So about 10, 12 years ago, I remember I got a call from someone who was trying to hire me for a gig. It was a wedding gig. They wanted me to play for their wedding. And I was in this mode of, like many musicians are, oh my God, I got a call for a gig. I haven't gotten many really good paying gigs or anything like that as much lately. So I'm going to take everything I can get. So as I was talking to the bridal couple, they were telling me about what they wanted for their wedding and the music they wanted. I was just agreeing with everything. I was like, yes, I can do that. You want me to play this? Sure, I can do that. You want an extended version of it? I can do all of that. I was going through all of that. And they were very happy to hear that. So we got to the part of the conversation where they asked me the $1 million question: how much do you charge? And what happens when we hear that question as musicians, there's something that happens in our mind that just like makes us be like real conscientious about, let me be careful about what I say. And I was going through all of that in my mind, and I really wanted to do this gig. So here's what happened. I quoted them like this really low price. I think it was maybe like 150, maybe even $200 or something like that. And I never will forget their response. They paused for a moment, and I was on the phone with them, and I could audibly hear like a small gasp. They were just like, really? And it was like a 5 second pause, and it was the most uncomfortable pause I'd ever heard. But they came back and they said, "Wow, really? We thought that your price was going to be like 5, 10 times that. So, okay, definitely you're hired." Now, let me tell you, when stuff like that happens, you feel a sense of stupidity come over you like never before. Because it's like, did I just ruin my chances of making 10 times what I quoted them? You literally, and it makes everything worse, because it's like, now I got to learn all of this music, I got to do all of this, and I could be making this much money for it. So it was a crazy thing. But the lesson I learned from that, and this is about elevating your value. No one is going to give you value. You have to give it to yourself. You have to set your value. You have to determine what your value is, and you have to stick to that like glue. People are going to challenge it. Sometimes if you quote a high price, people are going to be like, "Wow, you charge that much?" You have to stand 10 toes down with your chest out and say, "Yes, this is how much I charge for what you want me to do." If you want someone else to do it, I'll advise you to go to someone else. But this is what I charge. This is what it means to elevate your value. Now, elevating your value also means bettering the product that you offer, bettering yourself, determining ways and coming up with ways that you can be more valuable to the people that you're giving the value to, so that you can charge higher prices or get more perks or get closer to what it is that you want to build as a legacy as a musician. Now, the G in legacy stands for grow your platform. So back in 2022, so just a few years ago, I went viral for the first time on Instagram. And I never will forget it. I was watching my following count go up. It's at about 110,000 subscribers or followers on Instagram now, if I remember correctly what I have. I don't really keep up with it that much. But I remember watching my Instagram grow. I think I had like 1,000 followers at first. And then watching it, I would check it like every 30 minutes and I would be getting like another 1,000 subscribers. And then all of the likes and the comments on the video that I had that went viral. And it was just like the most amazing thing. And I had people inboxing me like, "Oh my God, you're so great." I had people reaching out to me about doing gigs. "Can we get you to come here?" I had people offering to fly me out of the country to other places to play for them, play for their events and stuff like that. And it was absolutely great. But what it made me realize was that you have these moments where you're kind of on fire, so to speak, and people pick you. But in a flash, that all goes away, because that's what happened with my Instagram. I mean, I still get messages and stuff like that from time to time, but nowhere near like it was when it first started happening. For that, like that first 6-8 months, it was nowhere near like it was then now. And that stuff is fleeting. And what happens is we get caught up in this thing where we wait for people to pick us. When we don't have a platform, we're waiting for people to pick us, like to choose us. But when you have your own platform, when you grow your own platform, you're setting up something to where you're giving people kind of like no choice but to choose you. See, now I have the credibility. I have the following on my social media accounts. I have the credibility. So when someone comes to me now, like what we just talked about in the last tip or the last part of legacy, where we're talking about price and they ask me how much I charge, and I say, "Oh, if you want me to do that, that's going to be $10,000. When I have something that they can look around at and see that I've built, that I have that credibility. And this is what comes with growing your platform. This is why I advise all musicians to start a YouTube channel. Start putting your content out. Start putting your message out. If you have something you want to say, you want to play, do, be, or have any of those things, start putting that content out on social media. So again, that's the G. Now, the A in legacy stands for align with purpose. So There's a quote by Mark Twain that I want to read for you. I've started reading this quote some years ago, but it's become one of my favorite quotes by Mark Twain. And it says, "The two most important days in your life are the day that you're born and the day that you find out why." And my goodness, that is so true, because it really is about purpose. When you find out, when you discover, when you set yourself, when you set your purpose and you align things with that purpose, I'm telling you, so much stuff gets easier because you're able to say no to stuff that doesn't align with what it is you set your purpose for. For example, my purpose now, one of the things that I've set as a purpose for this YouTube channel is to help at least 10,000 to 100,000 musicians go full time, start building a legacy and living their dreams. That's my purpose. So now when someone comes along with some quote unquote opportunity that doesn't align with that, even if it's lucrative, even if it pays some money, and it's like I should take that. That's paying some good money. I'm able to be aligned with my purpose and say no to that. Generally speaking, of course, now, I wouldn't turn something like that down if I had some need where I needed to take care of my family or something like that, of course. But in this thing where you have a purpose, you have to set stuff up that aligns with that and sort of goes with that objective with what your purpose are. And that keeps you in this vein of building a legacy. Like, I don't have time to do this because I'm trying to get to something here. I don't have time to be distracted by these things, by this red herring that looks good that you're offering me, because I got a purpose here. So aligning with your purposes is extremely important. So you have to ask yourself, what is your purpose? What are you determining your purpose to be? Again, what do you want that end objective to look like? What brings you joy? What brings you happiness as a musician? This is what your purpose is going to be. Now, the C in legacy stands for create value. This one is extremely important. So the only way to get paid high amounts of money as a musician is to offer value to people, and offer value to people in a way that helps them see that they're getting more value than what they're paying for. So I'll let you in on a little bit of a secret and a tactic about how I use this tip and this sort of framework when I'm talking about price with people. So now when I get calls from a wedding couple about doing a wedding or playing for the reception or anything like that, what I do is my 90% of the conversation that I'm having with them is about value. It's about the value that I can bring them. So when they're telling me, hey, we need a musician to play, we need a pianist to play for the wedding, and we want this kind of music and stuff like that, I'm listening to all of that. And then what I'm communicating is, before I say anything about price, first of all, I'm repeating back what they're saying to me. I'm saying, hey, so you're saying you want this is what you want, this is what you need, and stuff like that. But what I'm doing is I'm adding value to that, because when they say, oh, we want this song, I'm like, yeah, I can play this song. And I think what you'll want is probably, because what happens with a lot of weddings, I play for a lot of weddings, and little things happen like this where time may go, or time may get by, or things may not start on time, or things may go a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is I'll get there, I'll start playing the song a little early, and I'll just play it long enough for you guys, and I'll just kind of loop it while I'm playing it just for you guys to have enough time to come in. And that gets there. You can tell when I'm sitting across talking to them, they're like, oh my God, yes, that would be so great. I'm offering value. All of these kind of things. So when I'm offering to play for their reception, or when they're trying to hire me to play for their reception, I'm talking about what my band is going to do. Yeah, we want a band to play. We want to have a good time. We want to dance and stuff like this. And what I'm communicating to them is, so yeah, you want people to dance, but I know also what you want. This is like the most important night of your life. You want this to be remembered. You want your friends and family to be bragging about a good time, like what good time they had and how they danced and all of this kind of stuff. So this is what we're going to bring as a band. We're going to keep the dance floor moving. We're going to have people doing line dances. We're going to have all of this. And they're envisioning this in their head, and they're looking at me like, oh my God, yes, that's exactly what we want. And the trick here is, again, I'm communicating value. So now when it comes to the part of the conversation when they ask, well, how much you charge? What is our price going to be? And I say $10,000, $15,000. It's not like this thing of like, oh my God, $10,000, $15,000. What they see is like, oh my God, we're going to be getting all of this for $10,000. It's the value. So this is you're creating value. The money that you get is in the value that you provide to the people that's giving it to you. So the question is, what value are you offering as a musician? How can you position what you do as a value proposition? And then finally, the why in legacy is yield results. So this whole framework and building a legacy is about creating, a meaningful, strong, evident, career-based thing that brings other people value and that you can be remembered for. So in the movie Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, do you remember what Thanos said that he was going to do after he did the snap and kind of counsel half of mankind? You know what he said he was going to do? He talked about after he raised half of the universe that he would sit and rest and watch the sun rise on a grateful universe. Basically saying that he was going to sit and yield the results, yield the fruit of all of his action. And that's something that's so powerful that I think we need to think about and that we have to do as building a part of this legacy. Again, this is the end result of it. This is when we get to the end of that and what we want this to look like, what we want people to be saying about us when we're no longer here, what we want people to be saying about us now while we are here. When our name comes up in a conversation, when they say, oh man, have you met Terrence? Or what do you think about getting Terrence on this gig? And what do you want people to respond by saying? I want people to be saying, oh, Terrence, the guy that's on YouTube, or the guy that helps musicians, or the guy that was on this last gig and killed it. Definitely call him. That's what I want people to be saying. This is yielding the results of the fruit of your labor. This is something that is so important for us to keep in mind as we're building this legacy that we're trying to build. Because after all is said and done, this is the part of it that's really going to be bringing you joy. If you ever decide to not do this anymore, if you ever decide to retire from music, if you ever decide to, just take on a different role, a mentor position where you're going to be training other musicians and stuff like that, you want the results of that, of everything that you've built, to be fruitful enough to where people trust you. They still give you their time, their money, their resources, and you can show up at any point, anywhere, at any time, and walk in a room and just like garner respect. Like people will want to stand up and clap for you when you walk in the room. That's what I mean by yielding the results. So again, this is the legacy framework. Building your legacy, building your legacy builds your legacy. I'll see you in the next video.